Watch this.
Boise has a new police chief, but it's not a new face. So why did Chief Winegar come back after being passed up the first time around? And what comes next? Healthcare coverage can be a complicated conversation. What's covered? What's not? Who's covered? Who's not? Well, 150,000 Idahoans could soon lose their Medicaid benefits. So what options are left? Idaho is a keeper of many traditional trades: farming, ranching. How about pottery? In today's Exploring Idaho, we're going to meet an iconic potter whose studio you probably visited. He wasn't the first choice for chief, but he is the current one. Earlier this month, the city confirmed Chief Ron Winegar to lead the Boise Police Department. After serving 2 stints as interim chief, a little more than 2 years apart, with the retirement mixed in the middle. Winegar's career with BPD dates back 3 decades. A finalist for the top job back in 2020, Boise Mayor Lauren McLean ultimately chose Ryan Lee from the Portland Police Department. Well, Lee lasted a little more than 2 years and resigned at the request of the mayor last October. His short term came to a close after we aired a story on the 208 detailing complaints against the former chief. Well, a 2-time interim, now current chief sat down with Andrew Bartline today. And Andrew, there's a lot that lands in Chief Winegar's lap. He's got a lot to do to kind of right the ship that they're in right now.
Yeah, and he's the one who's really given the reins to be the one to right that ship going forward, partly due to his career here at the Boise Police Department. You mentioned going back 3 decades. Former Chief Ryan Lee under the spotlight of several complaints, really, uncovering a retired Captain Matt Bringleson and racist ideologies as well. So there's a couple different bullet points here that put the department in an interesting spot as Winegar takes the lead on that. Of course, that led to a $500,000 investigation into the department as well, on the heels of what we learned with former Captain Matt Bringleson. Well, today, Chief Winegar says he's focused on recruiting, hiring, and training. 3 big bullet points, but he knows there's a lot more on his plate.
Honestly, if there were other candidates, I'm not aware. I get the feeling that it was more, I've been here now for 6 or 7 months and things are going fairly well, and I've demonstrated the leadership that I think they are looking for, again, at this time for the situation that we find ourselves in.
Matt Bringleson has been labeled racist for the things that he's done. You are someone who's part of the fabric of this institution. Had you noticed anything like that within the department through your past almost 3 decades now being involved with Boise Police?
I did not. I did not see any police officer or other employee here in this agency treat people poorly because of their race. I did not see any indications that that ideology or that thought process was involved in any decision making in the organization. I did not certainly know of then Captain Bringleson's ideology or his thought process. So it was a surprise to me, certainly, and a shock. And I know that there are people out there that would say, how can that be? That's impossible. There's no way that's true. You've got to be hiding something or covering something up. And I would just say people are very complicated individuals, and I never saw an indication in any of his work or his approach to people or interactions with people, either inside the organization or outside the organization. And I worked with him for 20 years. I did not see that coming, and that's really all I can say.
What has the police department's involvement been with that investigation? I know there's a statement about cooperating with what they're looking for.
Sure. Our department has been intimately involved in the investigation. We have provided a number of documents, a number of pieces of information to the investigators, certainly cooperated and complied with any and every request that has been asked of us.
How do you, 1, regain that trust, and then 2, how does Boise Police become the institution that you would like it to be going forward?
How you gain trust or regain trust really boils down to the relationships again, and certainly we recognize that there may be a segment of the population who is anti-police or hates the police for whatever reason, whether it's legitimate or not, whether it's their cultural upbringing or their experiences that they have lived. I get that, but our obligation and my expectation for all of my officers who work in this department is that we will treat them with dignity and respect as well. And if we continually do that, and when we fall short, we make amends and we apologize and we move forward and we do better next time. And we take corrective action when necessary, and we do all the things that we can to ensure that that mantra is repeated in every single contact with every officer and every member of the community. Then I think we can move towards regaining that trust.
Wondering what your relationship is like with Mayor Lauren McLean.
I would categorize it as good. I appreciate her confidence in me and in our department. You know, I have met with her in the last 6 months almost every week. So we talk about things and priorities and certainly have a very good professional working relationship together.
She did pass you over the first time when you were up for that initial job as chief when you were the deputy, and I believe you were serving as the interim chief proceeding into that as well.
Yes.
So was that surprising to get a call after you'd been passed over for Ryan Lee?
It was completely out of the blue when I got the call from her in late September. Did not have her contact in my phone, and so it was an unknown number when the phone rang. It was an opportunity to really come back and I feel like make a difference in the organization. In that initial 5-minute conversation, we didn't discuss contracts or salary or any of those things. It's really a question, would you be willing to come back and serve as the acting chief for a time?
Speaking of time, how much time do you think you have left in the tank? You've done this for 3 decades, man.
Yeah, I'm getting a little long in the tooth, there's no doubt. I'm older than most of the folks here in the agency. What I agreed with the mayor is maybe we'll take it 6 months at a time and see how it goes. So I fully expect that I'll probably be here next year at this time, and depending on how it goes, maybe longer than that. Time is difficult to come up with. There's not enough time in the day to do all the things that we need to do, but really it's all about trying to lead an organization that is diverse and one where people make life and death decisions in a split second. So community policing, recruiting, hiring, training, and leadership and accountability, as well as wellness within the organization, have been my priorities. We feel like these are things that should endure and should last, and I feel like they're important. So that's what I'm working on.
Chief Winegar adds he knows success is when BPD is what he calls a destination department, where officers want to work at the department. He says applications are up and their lateral recruitment efforts are showing positive signs as well. I did touch base with the city, Brian, regarding that investigation into BPD on the heels of what we've learned with former Captain Matt Bringleson, or retired Captain Matt Bringleson, his what's been perceived as racist ideologies. It sounds that they have been invoiced for $500,000, which is what they capped that investigation at.
Okay.
And so it's on pause right now.
Any plans to, I guess, reset that or continue it?
From what I understood, what the city said is they're going to see what has been uncovered up to this point so far with the money that has been spent and decide what the next steps are forward from there. So perhaps they call it quits, or perhaps they go forward with that. We'll have to see.
All right. Well, Chief Winegar says he'll be here at least this time next year. So we'll see.
That's what he expects.
That's what he expects. All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Well, toward the end of the last legislative session, one of the last bills lawmakers passed was the 2024 Medicaid budget. It wasn't an easy one. Their first attempt failed in the House. Then the budget writers trimmed about $150 million from it. And they did that knowing that wasn't all that was going to get cut from Medicaid in Idaho. Who gets access to these benefits is about to drop by about 150,000, give or take. When the COVID pandemic prompted a public health emergency to be issued in January of 2020, well, that sparked Medicaid protection, meaning people were not allowed to be dropped from Medicaid coverage, even if they were no longer eligible. That protection ended April 1st. So now Idaho's Department of Health and Welfare is in the process of auditing its Medicaid rules and dropping those who no longer qualify. They're reviewing about 150,000 cases. And maybe you're one of the nearly 19,000 who have already been dropped. What now? Joe Paris tries to answer that question.
Inside Idaho's Department of Health and Welfare, there is heavy lifting on intricate data, specifically on Medicaid.
Right now, we are unwinding.
Shane Leach is the administrator of the Division of Welfare. He says with Medicaid rules in place, the state saw more and more people join Medicaid.
So starting in 2020, our enrollment went from about 300,000 up to 450,000 participants. Starting here recently in February, with the end of the public health emergency, we have now started the process to do renewals on all those individuals to see if they're still eligible for coverage or not, because we were unable to disenroll them during the pandemic.
So yes, 150,000 people on top of the normal rolls. So if you're on Medicaid, Idaho is working to confirm that you're still eligible.
These are individuals we're trying to get in touch with. We want them to contact the department. They need to do a renewal. If they don't complete a renewal, they could risk losing their benefits. We do it over the phone, collect their information, current income information, where they work, family size, household composition, other information. We take that, process that, and determine the eligibility.
Idaho lawmakers drew attention to Medicaid enrollment and costs during the most recent legislative session. Some lawmakers were hoping to see enrollment dropped in a significant way, which could lead to savings for Idaho. So far in their evaluations, out of 153,857 total people in Medicaid protection, 48,005 reevaluations have been processed, 18,980 people are eligible, and it's been found that 29,025 people have been determined ineligible. But lawmakers still need to be patient with final numbers.
It's a lot of work and obviously requires the involvement from our participants, right, to go through and complete the renewals. I think we have a really good planned out time frame. Other states are a little bit different. Some are taking longer, some are sooner. We started right away based off those kind of different factors, right, that apply to that to make sure people are still eligible. We're working closely with our federal partners.
Health and Welfare wants to get everyone looped in to make sure that Idahoans understand what they are doing right now. You'll receive mail from the department about your status and renewal. It's not a scam. They need to hear from you.
Get in contact with us, number one. Again, we start the process 60 days before to see if people are still eligible or not. So the initial is send them a renewal form. At day 30, we send a reminder. We're also currently working on sending individual text messages as well before the end of the month when they could lose the benefits if they don't get in contact with us. So sooner the better.
What happens if you're found to be ineligible? You still have health care options.
Overnight, they will actually be transferred to our partner, Your Health Idaho, which is a state-based marketplace. So from there, they will have an option where the state-based marketplace will actually reach out and potentially provide them additional coverage if they want to go shop on the exchange.
So I know we heard from some Idaho lawmakers during the legislative session saying that we'd like these answers now. We want to know how many people are really going to be on the Medicaid rolls as we examine the budget. And Brian, in terms of when will those numbers be available, it looks like July. And I just want to be very clear that the team that's working on the audit here and that's really working on the enrolling and the unrolling, they do other things at the Department of Health and Welfare. They work with a lot of the programs and confirm eligibility, things like food stamps, SNAP, things like that. So that's why it's taking some time, is because they have 300 people that are working on this, but they have other things to get done as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Greater Idaho has considerable concerns over a recent campaign against their cause. The push to partition a large part of Eastern Oregon and make part of Idaho, it's called Greater Idaho. It's an idea that's been brewing for years. It hasn't gone anywhere in either state legislature so far, but organizers are still trying to garner more support for it. For example, Wallowa County has a vote coming up this month to decide whether they would consider joining the greater group of counties. But someone isn't a big fan, and mailers were allegedly sent out to Wallowa County voters encouraging a no vote on the measure. So last week, the Greater Idaho movement filed a complaint with the Oregon Secretary of State's office because they don't know who sent out those mailers. And by Oregon law, any spending by a campaign needs to be reported, which includes who paid for such campaign. Not doing so is a violation of campaign financing. Right now, the Secretary of State's office website only shows a group that's registered in favor of moving Oregon's border, but none against. Greater Idaho organizers believe the call is coming from inside the House. They say they aren't sure, but they say signs point to a Portland-based group that is pitting against them in this campaign. All right, so Greater Idaho to one of the greatest things about Idaho. That would be the potatoes, of course. It's not our only thing, yes, but it is our most well-known thing. They aren't famous for nothing. And if that brings pride to any Idahoan, well, you can imagine the emotion when you see this happen. A semi-truck full of potatoes rolling off the interstate last night, dumping hundreds of Idaho's gold on the side of the road. Chubbuck Fire Department posted these pictures on their Facebook page. Yeah, it's a lot of potatoes. They said, thankfully, no one was hurt. It's unfortunate the same can't be said for some of the potatoes. If you've spent any time in the Magic Valley, there's a good chance you've heard of or even visited Snake River Pottery and met the iconic couple who ran it. If you haven't, well then, we'll introduce you to them. All right, you got something to say? Let us know. All you got to do is text us to the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Don't forget your name and the hashtag the 208. Oh, and if they're clean, clever, and concise, we might share yours at the end of the show, so stick around. The thing about Exploring Idaho is, well, it's in the title. It's about exploring Idaho, all of it. And John Miller seemed to have done that in 1 month, covering all corners of the state, it seems, in May of 1995. Yesterday, we showed you a fiddle maker he found in Kamei. Today, we're highlighting another craft that he found. It's more earth, less wood. We're heading to Hagerman 28 years ago this month as he talked tradition with a couple who try to keep that in their trade.
When you pull into Snake River Pottery, the first thing you'll see is this "Gone Fishing" sign. That's because Trudy Bowler has been fishing for 5 years straight. She's got quite a catch to show off.
I'd say about 400.
Yeah.
About 400 little fish, big fish.
They have ceramic heads on the roof, suns on the wall, more fish on the floor.
The minute we put it out, it's gone.
Traffic around here got so thick, the highway department told Dritch Bowler to put out TODs.
And I said, what are TODs?
They're those blue signs that designate major tourist attractions. How big a tourist attraction?
We had a postcard from Italy once, just mailed to the Snake River Pottery, USA.
And it got here.
Maybe they come for Trudy's fish or Dritch's bowls or pieces by other Magic Valley craftsmen. You can find those here too. But there's something else here you won't find in too many places anymore.
I'm a problem solver. Ideas drive me. They drive me harder than my legs will go now. Starting out here with nothing after World War II, I had to invent and make all the machinery.
And now 80-year-old Dritch Bowler is just getting into tile making with clay he'll dig up just downriver.
And I said, why can't that be done with a hydraulic ram?
How many 80-year-olds do you know who build their own hydraulic rams?
Oh, boy.
The result will no doubt bring even more people from even more places. Maybe they'll come just for the view or a piece of Magic Valley art, or for the people who mold it all together.
As long as my head works, I can do it.
You know, with the last name Bowler, of course they are meant to spin bowls, yeah? Dritch was a fixture in Hagerman. At the time of that story in 1995, he'd been in Hagerman for 47 years, making his pottery. He started the shop with his first wife, that'd be Lillian D. Bowler, in 1946 after he was honorably discharged from the Army. Well, Dee died in 1986, and then 4 years later, Dritch married Trudy, who you just saw, who became Trudy Bowler, as you saw. They always welcome people to stop by and leave money for any pottery or just say hi. Snake River Pottery served as more than just an art studio at the time. It brought artists together to collaborate and learn. Sadly, Trudy died in 1999, and Dritch continued Snake River Pottery until the very end. We lost Dritch 16 years ago on January 16th, 2007. He was 91 years old.
Quieter weather today as our low lifts a little bit farther to the north, and as it does so, it takes a storm chance with it. You can see those storms up in Montana and the panhandle of Idaho, even north of Long Valley for today, keeping partly cloudy skies across most of southern Idaho. We will have a little bit of cloud cover to contend with over the next couple of days as we clear out this lift, this low pressure, this energy. It moves a little farther to the east, and eventually a high pressure ridge will build in across the region, and that will give us a drying trend, also a warming trend. As you can see this ridge building in toward the end of the weekend into the weekend. But what's peculiar here is the forecast models are suggesting this low kind of re-strengthens and it gets pushed back in by this high pressure to the north, and it flows from east to west, which is really not typical for the overall flow of weather. It typically moves from west to east, but if it does this, if this develops, it will bring that storm risk back in across the region as we hit the beginning of next week. I also still think temperatures remain above average, so hopefully you're a fan of summer-like warmth, because that's what's in store for the weekend and into next week. A whole lot of sunshine, but a slight chance of storms. Monday and Tuesday, a little more likely than over the weekend, so Mother's Day should be dry for us. A look at the Magic Valley forecast, a similar story here with temperatures warming into the weekend. It's kind of our second summer after our second spring, after our ninth winter, after no fall, really, you know, so that's what happened. I feel short.
Well, and
well, we should get you a box like me.
second summer, ninth winter, Bree's last day. Yeah, it's either doing steps over
It
here.
is my last day on the 208. I think I was on the show like 5 times, but
as we've said
it
before,
was fun.
it is
not true.
Quantity or quality over quantity, Bree.
Thank you for having me.
We want the good stuff.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been.
2018?
2018, yeah. I had my first baby. I came back from maternity leave, started a new job. We co-anchored the Dairy Days parade.
Dairy Days over good times.
Oh, Rick Lance was a roving reporter. It was a good time.
He was a riot.
Still is.
Yes, he is. And got to anchor with Joey while Lauren was out on maternity leave. There was just a lot of really incredible times, but I don't really have any plans necessarily. I might take up knitting. I was thinking just right now I might start making little girl dresses, but I just want to spend some time with my little kids. So
I think you should text into the 208 and let Brian know how he's doing.
absolutely. Where's your tie,
critic.
Brian? Yeah. Where's your tie?
Thanks, Bree.
We'll miss your freshest forecast.
Thank you. They are fresh, Joe.
All right, we're going to skip over the painful potato puns and end the show with this today. Please tell Bree that she will be sorely missed. We love her forecast and think she's the best. Best of luck to her and her family. That's from Laura in Boise. Bree's one of the best weather people on local TV, and she is just a good person as well. We wish her the best, but we will miss her, says Annette. Speaks, well, volumes for the rest of us as well. We'll see you back here tomorrow.